Imagine you're looking at a beautiful aquarium full of vibrant, colorful fish, a brilliant marine ecosystem trapped inside a glass prison. Imagine wishing with all your heart you could join the fish in the aquarium. You press your hand against the glass, hoping it would somehow disappear and the water would take you in. Now imagine that the aquarium is all around you, walls of glass on each side, surrounding the only patch of dry land in existence. You are surrounded by swirling waters and colorful life, and you are the one in the glass prison. Or rather, the inside is everything around you, and the only thing on the outside is you. I'm making this video to try to capture something I don't fully understand. I'm trying to capture the experience of having autism, and that is something very difficult to do, because one of the core experiences of autism is avoidance. We want to avoid difficult situations and complex feelings, because we're easily overwhelmed and a little bit frightened of everything. I am in a great deal of pain as I write these words. I'm approaching a fear that is so central and so core to who I am, that to look at it directly feels like looking into the sun. Because that is my job as a writer, to look into the sun. I'm afraid to be alone, and I don't mean I'm afraid of not having people around me. What I mean is that I'm afraid of disconnecting from the network of humanity that most people take for granted. You take for granted that you are human, that no matter who you hate and who you fight with, who you attach yourself to and detach yourself from, you're still part of a shared human experience. You are lucky to feel so secure in this, and I am not as lucky as you. I have felt the horror of living as a conscious being with no other conscious beings around them. Or worse, I know what it's like to be surrounded by other conscious beings and to be unable to connect with any of them, trapped inside a glass prison. As of right now, I am not alone. I have friends and family who I'm close to, and generally I connect with people easily and naturally. But the fear is still there. What if all this goes away? What if I wake up tomorrow and the people around me are unfamiliar and distant, and I don't understand why? What if I open my mouth to speak and nothing comes out, or touch my fingers to the keyboard and they can't move? I am afraid. All of this can disappear in an instant. So there's this theory called the intense world theory of autism, and basically the idea is that everything you experience as an autistic person is really, really intense. So if you have sensory input like bright lights and loud noises, that can be really intense and overwhelming for you. If you have, say, emotions, your emotions are just way, way stronger than they are for neurotypical people. And also memory formation happens a lot faster and a lot more kind of acutely. So if you have a bad experience, that can kind of like shape your behavior and beliefs for a really, really long time. So for example, when I was a little kid, I got like tackled by a big dog that was excited to see me. And after that, I had like a really intense fear of dogs or dislike of dogs for literally decades afterwards. So the intense world theory of autism predicts that we'll have kind of like stunted emotional development because the way that we process, well, we don't really process our emotions, I guess. We try not to like look our emotions in the eye, so to speak. We kind of like shut them out, and we prefer like cognition over that because cognition is something that we can control and something that's easier to understand. Whereas emotional stuff is like really loud and overwhelming, and we just don't want to deal with it, which is all well and good because we do kind of get like really good cognitive powers as a result, and you can get really, really far in life just by thinking about stuff and not really feeling that much. But we really get screwed when it comes to socializing, and if you know autistic people to be kind of like socially awkward and not really able to like read faces or whatever, this is where that comes from. The fact that we have all these avoidant tendencies means that we also avoid a lot of important socializing stuff. So the example I'd like to use is eye contact. I still have a hard time making eye contact with people because when I look someone in the eye, I can see like so much of their thoughts and emotions that it's like overwhelming for me. I can't process all that information. And so I try not to make eye contact with people because if I look them straight in the eye, I'll be like, Jesus Christ, that's way too much stuff. And I have like distinct, profound memories of like times when I did look straight into someone's eye and I was just like, holy shit, I see like so much of what this person is thinking and feeling that I can't do it. I can't like stare at them like that anymore. That's kind of what having autism is like, I think. Everything you look at is like, everything's so vivid and bright, and you can't stare at it directly. Like I said in the introduction, looking into the sun, that's like what living life with autism feels like. I use that phrase so much because it's the closest that I can come to like capturing that experience. So, the little room. The little room is my metaphor for the kind of like comforts that you collect as an autistic person over the years. So when you're autistic, the world is bright and loud and overwhelming. What do you do about that? You kind of avoid all the stuff that makes you uncomfortable, and you get like this little private space that you have, the little room. And that's where you keep all of the stuff that makes you feel comfortable and safe. So there's a lot of different things that you can put in your little room. Some people will have like certain activities that are really relaxing for them. So like drawing and coloring is something that a lot of people have. Other people have certain foods that are really comforting. So, there's kind of like a stereotype of like autistic kids really like chicken nuggets and french fries and whatever. And it's because like it's familiar and safe. Some people have like comfort media, so they have like TV shows that they rewatch over and over again. I have like combinations of all of those things, of course. The biggest one for me, when I was a kid growing up, it was reading. So I really, really loved reading growing up. I still have just like books, like they're literally, let me actually. So like above my desk, there's just books and books and books. I read most of those. I finished some of them. So reading and language and writing and English, like it's very, very comforting to me. I honestly, I would say like the entire English language is kind of like in my little room. It's a it's a lot to pack into a little room, I know. And then also video games for me. If you knew me from last year or the year before, you know I was really into chess. I also played a lot of StarCraft and games, and also like math in general, and also like computer systems, I guess. There's a lot of stuff. All that stuff is like also in my little room. Studying games is something that I find really relaxing and satisfying. So I've been playing League of Legends lately and learning about what the different champions do, different builds, kind of the strategy of the game. That's something that I really enjoy as well. I'm either very lucky or very strategic to have so much stuff in my little room. I have like lots and lots of different things that I find comforting and reassuring, which I kind of did on purpose because I understand that like once one of those things gets disrupted, if you don't have a lot of other stuff in your little room, that's like your whole world falling apart, really. If like your favorite TV show gets canceled, like your Abed in Community, that's like you're screwed. You don't have a whole lot left to go back to. And so I kind of make it a point to like go out and get different stuff to bring into my little world, because then if I like lose some of it, it's not really a big deal. So actually this kind of happened to me with a little game called StarCraft. I really loved StarCraft 2 growing up. I played it tons and tons and tons in high school. The problem is that StarCraft is like not very good anymore. I did actually make a video about this. I'm not going to explain all of the details, but the game's kind of dead. It's not it just doesn't feel the same to play it anymore, especially with Blizzard being like a crap company now. But it's okay that I lost StarCraft because I have other games. I have chess isn't going anywhere. Now I have League of Legends too. I have Slay the Spire. I have all kinds of stuff. So losing one thing isn't really a big deal for me. And also, if you are kind of the caretaker for an autistic person, it would do you really, really well to understand what's in their little room, what is comforting to them, and what reassures them, and try not to disrupt that if you can. And kind of like an advanced thing you can try also is helping them expand their little room, so introducing new stuff to them. But you have to do it like very like gradually and gently, and you can't force them into it because like new stuff is like scary and overwhelming. So you have to have like a lot of empathy for like when it's okay to do that and when it's not. It's very difficult. So that's the little room. Sensory overload, easily being overwhelmed by literally everything in life. So you construct like this safe space where things are less overwhelming. The problem with the little room is that it's really, really isolating. I want to say that I was really lonely when I was a kid, but that's not exactly true. I wasn't lonely, I just didn't know what it meant to connect with other people because I spent all of my time in my little room, and I like the thing about the little room is that there's not really people in there. There's just stuff. And it takes a lot of work to share that little room with someone and bring someone into it. And it's kind of scary because what if they mess it up somehow? Which kind of happened to me, which I'm going to get into. It wasn't until high school that I connected with other people on a really deep level. And suddenly my little room wasn't just me playing by myself. There was like a window into it, people coming and going, and there's someone that I shared it with too, which I'm about to get into. I almost feel like it was a curse to open up my little room to the rest of the world, because Now that I've made connections with other people, now that I know what that's I feel like I feel almost cursed, honestly. It's like I have these memories and feelings from all the good stuff that's happened to me, and I don't know how to recreate it, and I don't know how to get back to it. And I'm dealing with a lot right now, as you're about to see. Okay, this next part's really hard. I have to talk about my experience in high school, which was really, really good. I had a lot of really close friends. I was in a relationship that meant a lot to me. I've tried to write about this time of my life for literal years now. I can't do it. I can't write about it. Um, and I can write about everything else. I've written so many letters and stories, and it's really easy for me to type things out to talk to the page rather than say things with my voice. But for whatever reason, every time I try to do that with my high school experience, I shut down. I just can't do it. So I'm not going to write a script for this part. I'm just going to talk, and we're going to see what comes out. I went to this fancy high school. It's called Stuyvesant High School. It's in the lower west side of Manhattan. It's basically the closest thing you can get to a private school while still technically being a public school. It's a public school, but you have to take like an entrance exam to get in, which is kind of difficult. And I had to do it. All of my classmates had to do it. And I really, really loved my time there. When I was in middle school, I had very few friends, and even the friends I did have, I didn't really connect to that much emotionally. It's hard to explain. It's like I hadn't really processed or understood that there was like life inside of them, that there was another human being there. I didn't really have a conception of like what other people were. I barely had a conception of what I was. I was just kind of floating around through life, just disconnected from everything. I had stuff that I enjoyed. I liked video games, I liked reading, but I didn't really have connections. I didn't have friends. I didn't have anchors in the world. And high school was the first time that I really felt that. I'm not going to use names, but my friends from high school know who they are. They know how much they mean to me already. And specifically, I had a girlfriend in high school. I'll call her I'll call her A, for anonymity's sake. Her name does not start with A, but A is an easy letter for me to remember. Oh, I don't want to talk about her. Oh, I don't want to do this. Um, the way I met A was through this high school club for basically some authors we really liked. All right, if you've heard of John Green, if you've heard of The Fault in Our Stars, the guy who wrote The Fault in Our Stars is also a YouTuber. He has a fan community called the Nerd Fighters, and I was a big Nerd Fighter growing up. So I joined the club for the Nerd Fighters, and it ended up just being a circle of queer friends that I stayed with through all of high school. And just for context, I wasn't queer back then. I was technically a cis boy, and my girlfriend was a cis girl. So we were a straight couple, but we were surrounded by queer people and queer friends, and we were a little bit queer in our own way. And obviously, I turned out to be trans, so, as far as I can tell, she's still straight. But anyway, we met through this high school friend group, and it was not love at first sight. I actually didn't like her that much when I first met her. We started out doing, I don't know, we were at a meeting and she made me do like one of the kung fu forms I learned in middle school wearing like a silly hat. And I was like, this sucks. I hate this. Why am I doing this? And that was my first memory of her. She's very silly. She has a really goofy sense of humor. She's very different from me in that sense because I'm a pretty serious person, I think. If you can't tell by the way that I started this video and the way that I write about literally everything, I'm very serious, and we had definitely contrasting personalities, but I guess that's kind of what made it interesting. I think we didn't really know how to like own that about ourselves though, and so sometimes we would be on different pages and we wouldn't really get it. We wouldn't really understand why, or at least I wouldn't. And so we got into conflicts a lot. Um, I want to say that like 90% of our relationship was really, really good. It was, God, I don't want to talk about it. I was really happy. I was, I was just really, really happy with her. I felt like I wrote about this in a letter that I never sent, and the phrase I used was, I didn't want anything else. I didn't want I didn't want anything else. I had everything I wanted. I We would walk around in downtown Manhattan. We would get some halal food, bring it up to the lounge in her apartment building, and we would just sit there and eat, and she would put her head in my lap, and we were just really, really happy. This is why it's so hard for me to talk about. I don't have words to capture how happy I was in that moment, and I feel like anything that I feel like fuck. I feel like anything that I say to try to capture how I felt in those days is insufficient. That no speech, no art, no writing can ever capture how much that time meant to me. And I've struggled to talk about this and write about this for so long because I just know in my heart that nothing that I say will bring across how happy I was in that time. So I guess this is kind of the best I can do. I just I just sit here and cry on camera, and that's all I got. Which is why it's so painful to me, why it's so difficult for me to accept how badly I fucked up that relationship. I wasn't really a good person when I was in high school. Um, I wasn't awful. I didn't like get into fights. I didn't commit any crimes or anything, but I just didn't get emotions. I didn't understand like what I was feeling. I didn't understand what the people around me were feeling. I was figuring it out. It was rough. It was rough for me. Um and because I didn't because I understood so little in our relationship, to put it very simply, oversimplifying many, many years of conflict, I ended up replicating the same kind of toxic behaviors and attachment styles that I saw in my parents growing up. Um, my mom is someone who gets really angry really easily, and she would lash out at my dad a lot, and that was what I was exposed to growing up. A lot of fighting, a lot of arguing. I say arguing, but it was really just my mom yelling at my dad. I tried really hard not to do that. To this day, like, the way I kind of define myself as a person is against that. I try so hard to stay in control. Fuck. To this day, I try so hard to stay in control of my emotions. I never want my emotions to influence my behavior because I have all of these core memories of seeing how toxic you can become, how pain you can cause someone if you don't have that control, if you lose control of how you express yourself, if you're not careful with the people around you, you can hurt them so much. And I did hurt her really badly. Um, I caused her so much pain in our relationship because I felt so much sadness and anger, and I didn't really know what to do with it. I would try to express myself to her, but it was so uncontrolled and loose that she ended up kind of also being sad and upset for no reason. There were times when I knew I felt sad, and I knew that I was angry at her for some reason, but I wouldn't know how to express it, and I would just shut down, and I would sit there and not talk, and she would get more and more worried, and she would try to like talk to me. She would try to like get any kind of reaction out of me, and I just didn't respond. And honestly, a part of me felt happy when that happened because she was so because she was giving me attention, I guess, because I could feel how much she cared about me, and some toxic part of me wanted to be like that because I was like, here's someone who loves me even when I'm such a shitty person that I can't communicate, that I can't say anything. And I, part of me feels like uh, subconsciously I was doing it to like elicit that reaction out of her, and I feel really, really guilty about that. I feel, I mean, I guess I didn't really understand what I was doing at the time. That's not true. I understood it. I just didn't have the mental fortitude to fight against it, I would say. It's like I knew that a lot of my behaviors back then were toxic, but I just didn't know how to do anything else. I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't know how to like process my emotions on my own. I didn't know how to communicate to her that sometimes I just needed time to myself to process things. I remember thinking this. I was like, I wish she would just leave me alone for a little bit. I wish that I could have some time to myself, but I just didn't know how to tell her that. Didn't know how to, I didn't know how to communicate because I had autism, and it's fucked. It's fucked when you have autism. You have all this stuff locked up in your brain, and you it never sometimes it doesn't even occur to you that other people don't know what you know. You don't even like have that sense of like you don't have this sense that other people don't see into your own mind clearly, and you have to be very cognizant of what other people don't know about you. That's something that I've struggled with for my entire life, and honestly, the way that I fixed it is through writing, because with writing you do have to kind of like think about what the reader knows, and make sure that you're communicating everything that the reader should know in a certain moment. And that ability to imagine what someone else knows and understands, that's kind of like how I got a handle on this. I can see from other people's perspectives better because I've read and revised my own writing so much. And so I use the same skill to try to understand what other people don't know about me and express it and bring it across as best I can, which is also kind of what I'm doing right now. Anyway, she meant a lot to me, if you can't tell. And um, I I think part of the reason why she meant so much to me is that she may also have had autism. It's unclear. I was in high school, so all my memories are skewed, but I feel like the way I phrase it to myself anyway is we had an almost miraculous relationship in that we were both in the same little room together. That's why I had the whole talk about the little room before. So you can understand how important it is to have the little room, to have that nice private space where nothing else can affect you. And so you can understand how meaningful it is when I say that we shared that space. We had the same little room together. We had a lot of the same interests. We were comforting presences for each other. We were each other's comfort people, and that is an experience that I have not had again since, and I feel like I'm still chasing that all these years later. I make friends with people. I've been in a couple of relationships, mostly situationships, like very vague, uncertain things, and I I feel cursed, like I said. I feel cursed to have had that experience of having another person in my little room and us to be sharing that space together, because it is so, so hard to build that with someone. And especially with neurotypical people who don't understand, like, who just don't understand what the little room is, who don't understand, like, just I mean, we didn't even understand it either. We knew it was happening, and we felt all that joy and relief and comfort, but we didn't know how to articulate it. We didn't know what it was that created that bond. Well, even now, I'm just barely starting to understand all of this stuff, all of these mechanics, and I've been chasing that feeling ever since. I've wanted really badly for years to have that experience again of sharing the little room with someone, and it's really, really hard to do. And I think this is why I feel so disconnected from people all the time, because I have felt this intense connection with someone else, and nothing else that I do really compares to that. Everything else is just, I don't know, it's like every other friendship and relationship I create is just trying to recreate this memory that I had with her all those years ago, and it's very, very difficult to move past that. I think that's the best I could do for capturing everything that happened. I remember everything about our relationship. I remember almost, it feels like I remember every single day that we spent together, walking home from school holding hands, and I don't think I'll ever be able to say all of it out loud. I think that those memories are just going to stay inside of me forever, and I'm going to die with them, and I think that's okay. I think I've shared enough of how I feel to communicate to the rest of the world how important that relationship was to me, and the rest of it stays with me. The rest of it dies with me, and that's okay. For this next part, I have to talk a little bit about how our relationship ended. Our relationship ended a few months after we went to college. I think it was either October or November after we started school that she broke up with me. And she was absolutely right to break up with me. I had become a pretty toxic person, definitely over the past year at least, and even before that, I had a lot of toxicity in me. This was also a few months after I had come out as transgender, so I had the realization the summer after we graduated from high school, and I spent that summer kind of coming to terms with that, I think. I remember asking her, like, are you okay with me being trans? And she basically said, it doesn't really matter to me. At the time, I wasn't sure what she meant by that. I wasn't sure if she meant that she was still going to date me, or if she just wanted to break up with me and it didn't matter to her because she was going to break up with me either way. Autism thing, I did not think to clarify with her. I didn't think to ask her what she actually meant by that. I just lived with that ambiguity, and I was like, damn, what if she breaks up with me? That would suck. So she did end up breaking up with me, but I really don't think it's fair to say or believe that she broke up with me because I was transgender. It's really easy to draw that conclusion based on the timeline, but that's not the real reason. I don't think that really had an effect on how she was thinking about things. It was really my toxic behavior that caused her to break up with me. And again, she was absolutely right to do that. I bring this up because there's the conflicts of many different things that happened over the next year. First, graduating from high school, all of my high school friends shipping off to different places, and uh, I wasn't the only one from my school to go to my university, but I was the only one from my immediate friend group, and I did try to make friends with other people. I was reasonably close to them, but it wasn't a replacement for what I had in high school. I also came out as transgender around then, so I was basically in the process of completely re-understanding who I was. I had to shed a lot of the toxic masculinity stuff that I grew up with, and I didn't have anything to replace it with. I was just like a void of a person for a long time. Uh, and in addition to that, I lost my girlfriend. I lost the most important person that I had had in my life for 3 or 4 years. I lost a lot when I went to college. I lost my friends, I lost my girlfriend, I lost my sense of identity. I kind of lost my name too because I changed my name because I'm transgender. I lost my family, they were far away. I was a void of a person. I said it already, but I'll say it again. I was a void. I just wasn't complete. I It's kind of hard for me to explain now. I don't really remember that much from that time because there wasn't that much to remember, honestly. I tried to go out and make friends occasionally, and but I was just so tired. I had depression. I started going to therapy in December, but it was like way too late at that point. Because the thing about therapy is that it takes time to start working, and so by the time I went to therapy, my depression had already progressed to the point where it wasn't really like feasible for me to recover in the time that I had. which, by the way, is a lesson to anyone out there who's considering therapy. Don't wait until it gets really bad, because therapy is preventative care. It's not really treatment. So the treatment for depression, when it gets really, really acute and you stop being able to function in society, is pretty much hospitalization. And I was hospitalized in 2016, the spring of my freshman year. I was actually hospitalized 3 times. And 2 other times, I essentially bluffed my way out of being committed to the psych ward. I had been in like school counseling for long enough to kind of understand what you can and can't say. And I was able to just bluff my way out and not be committed. The third time, I remember I was just lying in bed and I was like, damn, I think I'm really going to do it. I think I'm really going to kill myself. When it comes down to it, the reason why I'm still alive today is that I did have at least one close friend still back then. She knows who she is. I knew how bad it would be if I killed myself, because there's an author that she really liked who went to our high school. He basically lived our lives. He went to this really stressful, really prestigious high school. He had depression. He figured it out. He went to therapy. He wrote a book about it. He's a successful author, and he was the story for us. He was the story that said we can make it out of this. If he can do it, we can do it too. And in our senior year of high school, he killed himself. So I knew that I couldn't do that to her. I knew it would destroy her. And so I called 911. I told them how I was feeling. I sounded very peaceful. I remember I was just chatting with a guy on the phone. I was like, yeah, I feel suicidal. Can you send someone, please? I'm in this dorm. And I told him, yeah, I have like this bottle of melatonin, and I was thinking, man, if I swallowed this whole bottle of melatonin, that would probably kill me, and it would probably hurt a lot. And he was like, yeah, it'll probably hurt a lot. And so I went to the hospital. And you know what? I actually really enjoyed my time at the psych ward, because I was around other fuck ups pretty much. Everyone there was in for something insane. There's suicidality, there's drug abuse, there's borderline personality disorder, there's everyone had something going on. And you know what? I for the first time in like, I guess a year, maybe more, I felt really connected to people. I was like, damn, these are my people. These are people who get it. They know what's going on. And if you read One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I was kind of like McMurphy in there. I just came to life all of a sudden. I was just like, damn, there's these people here around me who I really like and who I'm really close to. For the week or so that I was in the psych ward, I felt myself becoming a different person. I was like, this means something. Connecting to other people who are mentally ill, who are suicidal, who have shit lives that they're having trouble getting together, that's important for me. That means something. When I got out of the hospital, I that's when I resolved to change my major. I switched from engineering to English and Asian Studies. I switched from the engineering track to the School of Arts and Sciences, which, by the way, took a long time. It took me like a year, and I almost got kicked out, which is a story for another day. But blackout. The reason why this section is called blackout is because I was so isolated from people for that year, for the freshman year of college. Oh my god, it really was like this black hole of nothingness, of no connections to people. I even like the stuff that I usually liked that was in my the stuff that was in my little room. I couldn't engage with it as much because it had all those memories of my girlfriend attached to it, and I was so alone and so sad. And it's also really hard for me to capture what that felt like, because there's nothing to capture. It was just emptiness. It was just blankness. And do you have any idea what that's like? Do you remember what it was like before you were born? Do you know what it's like to just have nothing, to be empty inside, to be to be so detached from the world around you that you're just floating off into darkness? Because I remember that, and that really sucked. It was really, really bad. And that's why okay. Fuck! Oh my god. Okay. That's why I'm so afraid to be alone, like I said at the beginning. It's not that, like, if I don't have people around me, I get uncomfortable. I'm really very introverted. But I'm afraid of going back into the blackout. I'm afraid of somehow, some way, losing the ability to connect with people again and just floating off into the darkness. Because it's happened to me before. I lost everything when I went to college, and I had to claw and scrape my way back into the human world. And it was so, so hard and so, so painful. And I don't even know if I could do it again at this point. That's not true. I could do it again if I really had to. Um, and saying that out loud, knowing that I could do it if I needed to, it does make the fear feel slightly lessened. It's not as scary because I feel like I could reconnect, but the fear is like, what if it doesn't work? What if I disconnect again and I can't find my way back? What if I fight and fight and fight to be heard and understood and I just can't do it for whatever reason? That is a very, very scary thought for me. So, this is why I wanted to make the video, to express this fear that I have, this intense, intense fear of disconnecting from humanity and not being able to connect with people again. Because like I said, I know what it's like. It's happened to me before, and it's really scary and it's really painful. The glass prison, this is what the glass prison is. It's having people around you that you connect to, but in order to connect with them, you do all of this work. You put on this mask to try to fit in, and the closer you get to people, the more you understand them, the more you put on this mask to get closer to them, the more terrified you feel because what if the mask slips? What if it falls away? And the cliche thing to say here is, what if they don't like what they see when you take off the mask? But that's not really what it is. That's not really how I feel. What I feel is that I barely even know who I am when I'm not masked. I there's some things that I know. I know that I like things like computers, I like chess and video games. I like writing, I'm good at writing. But even with writing, it's like writing is such a like the reason why I like writing so much is because it's composed, because I have time to think, because I can sit there behind my keyboard and change things and fiddle with things until things are exactly the way that I want. But that's a masking behavior. Now that I think about it, it's like, it's not that it's not genuine, it's not that it's not really how I feel, but it's really carefully wrought and composed. And that's why it's so comforting to me to write stuff, but also why I can't write about these feelings. That's why I couldn't. I started writing this video. I started by writing a script for it. And by the way, now I have to reshoot the first part of this video because I read it off of a script and I can't use that because it doesn't make sense for the rest. Anyway, but I started out writing this because I was so afraid of all these emotions that are coming up right now. And I wanted to disconnect from. I felt like I needed to have that barrier, that disconnect from these feelings because they're so big and scary. And you know, the first idea I had for this video was a story. I was going to write a story that was like many layers of abstraction from the stuff that actually happened to me. I would like take my life experiences and like rephrase them into the story and tell it in a YouTube video. And I'm realizing now that I wanted to do it that way because I just didn't want to get close to all of this stuff because it's scary and I'm still crying. It's been like an hour and I'm still crying. It's really scary. It hurts a lot to be talking about this. And the more as I kind of went through this and different versions of this video, rewrote the script, edited stuff, I got closer and closer to just talking and just saying how I feel. And Part 2 was when it really clicked, if you can't tell, when I had to talk about my girlfriend. And I realized that I can't write this down. I can't write a script for this. I just need to talk about it. The glass prison. The glass prison is this feeling of the world circling around you, of everyone expressing their emotions, being just really genuine and authentic, and you put on this mask to try to go out into the world and connect with people, and you can do it. You can talk to people, but it's behind this window of glass. It's, you reach out and you try to touch someone, but your hand just presses against the cold glass and you don't know what to do. It's all around you and it's transparent. You can't see it, but you can feel it. And that is a difficult and painful and exhausting life to live. And that's really all I have to say about that. I hope that by making this video and releasing it, I can start to take down those walls a little bit. I hope that I can break through the glass prison and connect to people on a deeper and more genuine level, because I know that there has to be more to life than what I've been doing for these years so far. I know that there has to be a way to connect to people in a way that's different from what I've been doing already. I just don't really know how to do it. And all of the tools that I've developed to get to where I am right now, my ability to speak articulately, my ability to write, my ability to communicate, all of the tools that I've developed to try to connect to people are also obstacles in connecting to people, because when it really comes to, when it really comes down to it, I'm the one building the glass walls. I'm the one who built the glass prison, because the stuff that's out there, trying to connect to that stuff, that is really, really scary, and I want a barrier between me and all of that stuff to be safe. So, here it is. Autumn crying for like an hour, because this is taking down the walls. This is what it means to break out of the glass prison, and oh boy, this was a really hard one to make. Let me play you out with a little bit of piano. I feel like music is the most genuine that I can be a lot of the time. Something about the way my brain works when I'm playing the piano is different from when I'm talking or writing, and I think maybe you'll understand a little bit how I feel. So, thank you so much for watching. This was a trip. It's sorry to put you through all that, but I hope you appreciate it in some way. I've been Autumn Chu, and this is the first serious video I've ever done. And it was really painful, and I learned a lot about myself, and I hope you learned something about me too. So, thank you. It means a lot to me that you're still here with me right now. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dear A, I hope you've forgotten me by now. I hope you've burned my letters and gifts, or at least when you hold them you don't feel a thing. I don't want you to feel that way anymore. I know that wrenching in your gut when you remember, a way they smiled, a way they held you, and it must be so much worse for you. Because for me, you are a beautiful memory, but for you, I must be a painful one. I hurt you back then, and I didn't realize it, but I still hurt you. I hope you've forgotten me. I hope you're still dancing and you don't think about me when you dance. I hope you found someone who loves dancing as much as you do, and when you dance with them it feels perfect and right and everything just falls into place. I hope that you lay in their arms and feel loved, and when you kiss them, a thought of me never crosses your mind. I hope it was like I never met you. I hope that your new joys and your new memories have layered over me so much that it was as if I was never there, that I am buried somewhere so deep inside of you that you never think of me again. It's what you deserve. After all that suffering, you deserve that freedom. It's okay if you forget, because I remember. I remember it all. I remember the park, and I remember your apartments, both of them, and I remember what it was like for someone to love me and to trust me and to look into someone's eyes and know exactly what they are thinking. That I love you and you love me, and for a moment in this awful, cold, heartless world, we are sharing the same thoughts and the same feelings, and I remember when you held my hand for the first time, and I remember what it was like to love, and I miss you, and I can never show you this letter because I can't poison you with the sadness inside me. You deserve to be free of me now. You helped me so much, and now I owe you the right to forget, to subtract myself from your life so you can really truly be happy. I needed to write this for myself, that's all. I have so much that I want to say to you. I want to roll back time to a night when you're sleeping in my lap and I'm stroking your hair and I don't want anything else. I didn't want anything else. Fuck. I didn't want anything else. I didn't want anything else. I just wanted that moment to go on forever. I fucking miss you. It wouldn't be the same now if we talked to each other because of everything, but I miss you. I hope that you're complete without me, and I hope that I can be complete without you. You have been haunting me for years now, and I think we need to be free of each other. I don't want to be stuck in the past, stuck in New York in your apartment and stuck in love with you. I want to move on. I hope you already have. With love, so much love, more than I ever thought I could love. Autumn.